Okay, restarted it. Okay. Right. As we restart the recording, I'll start again. Agentic Workflows. We're going to we'll look at what agentic workflows mean. What do I mean by agentic workflows and how you can use them to streamline your work and automation. We'll also primarily look at how the different use cases for using agentic workflows and where they can be used safely. As I said, there's going to be some feedback at the end. Please fill that in, and the recording will be shared. The session is being recorded. So, where's this webinar come from? Well, I've done a whole series of webinars around what agents are, and then autonomous agents. But now we see people talking about agentic workflows. This is moving very, very quickly. I mean, in the last few months, or even the last couple of weeks, things are changing rapidly. There are new and changed services, how things work, new capabilities that are being introduced. And when all these are coming in, you need to understand what they are, and where you can use them, and where you can use them properly and with protection and compliantly. So we're going to look at how we can automate using agentic workflows safely and compliantly, where we're going to have some governance and security for you. There's a lot of talk. A lot of people are talking an awful lot about this and that, and okay, go away. But actually, implementing it has its own challenges. So I'm the person to help you navigate this. I'm Julian Sharp. I've been involved in building the different things over the years, and I've been using AI from Azure for over 10 years, building solutions, probably business solutions, call centers, and other things where I've introduced chatbots and AI to help improve performance and automate. And I look back at some things I've built over the years, and right now, some of those took months. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and I once spent 3 months building a whole load of workflow to handle whole loads of process changes, and it was so rigid and hard to use. And with AI and agentic workflows, I could have probably done the same amount of work in a week rather than 3 months. So this is me. I've been involved in training for a long time now, starting off in Dynamics and call centers, and now training Power Platform AI and Copilot a lot now, as well as a bit of data. I wrote the Microsoft exam prep book for AI 900 in 2000. They actually asked me beginning of last year to update it, and I said there's no point, it'll be out of date before I've even finished it. And that's true. Everything's moving so fast. Because at that time, things back last January, thought what we've got now is completely different. There's also, just to let you know, the AI 900 exam is being retired. So my book will get retired, and there's a new exam, AI 901. I want to know a little bit about you now. So you can go to menti.com, or you can go scan that QR code, or you can go put the link I'm going to put in the chat right now. And there's a few questions to understand what you know about workflows, agentic workflows. So scan the QR code, or just go to menti.com and type in the code there, or just click on the link I put in the chat. That'll take you directly there. And it's just a few little basic questions to understand what's going on, so I know where you are. Just a bit of feedback for me, understanding what people are, because it's really hard keeping up with this. I spend an awful lot of my time reading, watching other webinars, getting information that people do. And this is one of my favorite questions, because over the years I've built chat applications that use natural language. I built call centers. I built my first chatbot back in about 2014 using Azure Bot Framework, and we called them bots at that point. But then bots were associated with bots that were hacking people, so we then started calling them chatbots. Then Microsoft introduced the term Copilot, and Copilot for me means an AI or chat capability built into a Microsoft product. But Microsoft started calling chatbots, Copilots we built, custom Copilots. So we had Copilots and Copilot in and Copilot for and custom Copilots. We've now switched to the word agent. So an agent is something beyond. So Copilot is a type of agent, as far as I'm concerned. But when we go build things, we're building agents. That's the word we're using. So everybody's got all of the above is the right answer, because when you talk to customers and users, they will use these terms. They'll use chatbot, bot, copilot. They don't understand the nuances of the words. And there are different nuances, I think, between chatbots, copilot, and agents, but most people don't get the nuance. So all of the above is probably what I would say is the right answer on that. Well, it's the best answer. And then, okay, what have you got experience of? Oh, somebody's got Foundry. Um, Microsoft 365 Copilot, yes, you can build your own agents in Microsoft 365 Copilot. And to be honest, I've been using those more and more. I found I can do an awful lot with Microsoft 365 Copilot and building agents in that. Agent Builder is what you use when you build an agent in Microsoft 365 Copilot. That's its current name. It's been called Copilot Studio Lite. It's back to Agent Builder. I think they're going to change it to Copilot Agent Builder or something. There's going to be another name change. You can also build custom Copilots in Copilot Studio and in Microsoft Foundry, which has again been through some name changes. It was the AI Foundry before that. Before that was AI Studio. So we've got none, but okay, just doesn't matter. But a few of you got Copilot. Or some of you actually build it actually using prodding code with the OpenAI service as well. Foundry gives you a whole lot of, just out of interest, Foundry gives you a whole lot of SDKs to make it easier and quicker to build agents rather than using the Foundry service. Anyway, enough on that. Sorry, there's one more chat. Yeah, what's he looking for? Oh, okay. So let's do first steps, not yet. Is it true or false? How to use Dynamics? Yeah, well, interesting. Dynamics, there's lots of agents being brought in. You've got the sales agent, you've got the sales closing agent, the sales development agent, and some of those agents you can customize. So Dynamics is building in agentic workflows into the product. So Microsoft is adding in, but if you want to, you can build your own Copilot Studio agents. And hopefully I'll demonstrate something later on, shows you how you can get an approval as part of an agentic workflow. Well, yeah, don't go. No, don't go there yet. Yeah, we're gonna. I'm going to talk about a way you shouldn't use it later on, and some practical examples where we could use it. Um, yeah, what's that compared? Workflows in my component. I'm not sure what you mean by workflows in my Copilot. The trouble with the word workflow is it's so generic on this. So I'm not sure what you mean by workflows in my Copilot. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. But maybe do that. Yes, best performed tasks on that. Okay. Workflows, no. Oh, Frontier. Okay. Frontier is just, oh, I get you there. That's the Frontier bit. So Frontier is Microsoft's mention of what a Frontier organization is. A Frontier organization is AI first, an agent first. So yes, you have to sign up for Frontier as an organization, but so that's really it's very much in preview. It'll come into the rest of the product later. So I'm going to be talking slightly differently to what they refer to there as the workflow. It's a workflows agent, as a workflows Frontier agent. And there's more to Frontier than just workflows. So yeah, this is part of the problem. Everything is moving so quickly. Anyway, so just thank you for that. That helps me maybe answer some of the questions we go through. Practical examples, use cases. But yeah, I'm going to focus a lot on use cases and practical examples, then just maybe showing a little bit to save me from the boredom of not listening to me. Anyway, that's the end of that. Let's get back into the agenda. So what we're going to be looking at is I'm going to talk very briefly about the types of agent there are, what an autonomous agent is, and then what an agentic workflow is, and then essentially explain what the difference between an agentic workflow and an autonomous agent is. Although they are related, they're not exactly the same. Then we'll look at the use cases, where I can use agentic workflows safely, and then some examples and quick wins, so what you asked for. Real examples, quick wins. And then we're going to look at the tools and services from Microsoft, primarily Copilot Studio, I mentioned Foundry. And then we'll look at the available training. And again, that's changing very, very rapidly as well. As I'm speaking, there are new things being changed. So this webinar it's not highly technical. It's meant to just give you an overview. If you're just a business leader, you need to have an understanding of where you might want to use agentic workflows. If you're a builder of applications and things, what tools do I need? Look at what I might do use this, and basically anybody's maybe understanding what the use case for agentic workflows is. So just in terms of any questions, you can use the chat. If you want to raise your hand and ask a question, you can. We've not got, I've got 40 odd people actually now. That's good. Thank you. So yes, you can come and ask questions. Anytime you use the chat, I'll try and answer them, or I've got time for question and answers at the end as well. It's up to you what you want to do if you have any questions. All right, let's move on. So what's out there? What we look at here? What's the agent landscape looking at? So here I'm going to look at the different types of agents, what autonomous agents are briefly, and what's the difference to agentic workflows. So I've already talked about Copilot. So first of all, Copilot is, especially if I talk about Microsoft 365 Copilot, Microsoft 365 Copilot is essentially a prompt and response agent, which means you chat with it, and it provides responses, and it provides that responses using the information it has available to you. Right now, Microsoft 365 Copilot can't take action. It can't do things. It's not task-based. But we can build agents that are task-based. So I can build simple chatbots to do prompt and response, or I can build agents to perform tasks, to do things on my behalf. And this is where we get into connecting to external services to do things, even if that's like Outlook or SharePoint or Dropbox or databases to do things. And then we're going to look at autonomous agents, agents that operate without a user having a chat. They operate based on things happening. And you can set those up. And really, we're going more towards, everybody's talking now about autonomous agents, but we don't always need to use autonomous agents, although that's where we're going. So let's just talk about the prompt and response agent first. It says here, a system that reacts to user prompts and provides responses. And the key thing here is it does it without retaining long-term goals or memory. It just responds to that particular chat, that particular question. So no long-term. So it's not trying to do things long-term. It's just responding to what you're doing, what you're asking. It's reactive, where it's response. So typical chat bots, which you've used. Microsoft 365 chat is a good example of a prompt and response agent. Often they'll be grounded in data. So we talk about grounding them in knowledge sources. So Microsoft 365 Copilot is grounded in the Microsoft Graph, which is all your emails, Teams meetings, Teams messages, files you've opened and edited recently. It looks at all of that, and the prompt and response uses that information to enhance your prompt so you get a more specific answer. And if you want, you can build very simple. It's very easy to build a chatbot prompt and response agent in Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. You can go build what we call a declarative agent, which is a simple chatbot agent where we give it very specific instructions, saying let's provide answers about the weather, as it says there, or about I built one which summarizes Teams meetings. I've got a little declarative agent asking me to summarize my Teams meeting for me. And a lot of people start with this. And then you can often move on to task-based agents. So task-based agents is an AI agent that executes task or workflow. So workflow comes in here, based on typically on a user request. It has a single goal, or it's orientated around a single task or goal. And when an agent is, it talks about planning. It works out what it needs to do. When we build the agent, we don't tell it exactly what we do. We allow it to use generative AI to plan what it needs to do. And what we do is we give it a whole series of tools. And the tools are what it uses. So tools is the generic word now for connecting to different databases, applications, APIs, systems external. And it basically plans and reasons what tools to use for the particular request, and then calls those tools to perform the work. The agent itself doesn't perform the work, it calls a tool to do it. And you may have heard of tools like MCP servers, agent flows, connectors. It uses those to do that. But it's very much, again, it just does the task, then stops. It doesn't have a long-term goal. It's there it says it's goal orientated for a single task, and it basically works out what it needs to do the task and then stops. And I suppose Microsoft 365 Copilot's got a little bit of tasking because you can ask it to create a document. So it's got the ability to create a PowerPoint or a Word document, but it can't really go beyond that. You can ask it to send an email, but it doesn't actually send the email or draft the email. But it won't actually send it. It typically requires you to do something else on here. Autonomous agents are AI that operates with a long-term or persistent goal. It sits there and waits and initiates itself based on events or things that happen. So it's self-initiated. So we talk about being triggered by an event, such as an email arriving or a record being created, or I can even run them on a schedule. They sit essentially, they don't require, the key thing is they don't require human input. They're not waiting for a prompt. They sit there in the background and then work on what they want to do. And typically, with a autonomous agent, you can operate with or without human oversight. So you can have an agent that sits there, or we're going to talk about, and this is where we're going to get more into the agentic workflows thing, where we bring in the human oversight element. How do I create a longer term thing here? So Power Automate is an autonomous agent? No, because Power Automate doesn't have any planning or reasoning. There's no generative AI. So an autonomous agent will decide what to do. So it uses, just like a task-based agent, it plans and reasons. It's a good question, Mick. Power Automate is automation. And Power Automate is what I call, what's the word I use for it? It's not declarative. It's basically, when you build Power Automate, you specify the steps it follows. So you do this, followed by this, followed by that. There's a word for it, but I can't remember. It slipped my mind. But it's not declarative. It'll come to me. Okay, so but what's interesting in Power Automate, we can call an agent now. This is where it's getting it's all messy now. So I can have a Power Automate trigger an agent and call an agent. And actually, in fact, that's how autonomous agents in Copilot Studio work. We create when you create a trigger on a Copilot Studio agent, it actually creates a Power Automate Cloudflow to trigger the agent. So it's not, your question is not as strange as wrong as it could be. So essentially here we can have a bot that's monitoring markets and can monitor streams of data and then decide when to run and then do things. We can have an agent that monitors an inbox, an email, then looks at the email, then decides what to do with the email, whether to respond, escalate, or do other things for it. I want to have an agent that does the last one, schedules my meetings. I spend about half my day handling requests for things and figuring out have I got space to fit this in, and how can I do alternate dates? I want to build an agent to do that for me because it's a large part of the hassle of my day. And the other thing about an agent is it learns from it, learns what you like to do. So a proper autonomous agent will figure out your preferences, figure out how you like to answer or decide or do things. So we often refer to autonomous agents having memory, sort of long-term memory that's stored, so remember what it does. We can also get feedback. How did it work? There are feedback loops in here to maintain those objectives. So autonomous agents, how they work is they look at real-time data. They're looking at data changes or other things that happen. And then they go in and plan what they need to do. They plan a sequence of activities. This is not just one task, potentially. They could do multiple autonomous actions. Okay, so, and this is where Microsoft, I think, is very much going. The things, rather than having lots of task-based agents, we'll have autonomous agents that run on our behalf. I'm not going to get into we're not going to talk about multi-agents, but often with autonomous agents, we've got other agents calling other agents to work together. And then from that, it works out what to do. So that's an autonomous agent. Essentially, it's something that's triggered. It does tasks. But I think the biggest thing about an autonomous agent over a task agent, it sort of perceives the environment it's running in. It understands where it's running. It's getting inputs from different places, external systems, sensors, software inputs, or they can be called from other things. And they go and work out what they need to do. And typically, an autonomous agent will break the goal down into smaller tasks and do multi-step actions. And if any of you have got Microsoft 365 Copilot, if you've used the researcher or analyst agent, although that's a task-based agent, it goes through, you'll see if you ask researcher or especially, it goes through a whole series of planning steps. I've got what I did the other day, researcher did 118 steps in sequence to work out what to do. And it will also, autonomous agent also again will use the tools. It'll interact with external systems. So what makes a work, I really hate the word workflow. I love the word workflow and hate it because so many people use workflow for the different things. So often people talk about their workflow in the job, which is what they do. It's, oh, I go send an email, I create a document, and they talk about the steps that they do. So sometimes when you talk to users, they talk about when workflow means the things that they do during the day. When you talk to technical people, workflow is the automation. It's the automation. So Power Automate, it creates workflows. I think we're also going to see Microsoft change the word. So you talk about Power Automate, Mickey says about Power Automate, you talk about Power Automate flows. Microsoft are going to start calling them workflows. Just to confuse us. We're going to have workflows for everything. So what makes a workflow agentic? So I could have a workflow is typically more than just a single agent. It's a whole series of steps to do things. And what I can do is I can take a workflow, say something I've automated in the past. So I've automated with Power Automate where it's very step by step, where when I build my cloud flow, I say I do this step followed by this step. I might put a bit of looping and logic and branching in, but I'm designing the workflow steps. With agentic workflow, we're essentially using agents to decide the steps. So it's similar in a way to autonomous agents. Autonomous agent does the goal planning. It's very oriented around a long-term goal. It does the planning. But I think what we get into here is more about the autonomous decision making. It plans, decides, and acts across multiple steps to achieve the goal. The other thing is it'll use the tools as well to be able to do things. But autonomous decision making, it decides what to do next. So I'm doing a larger scale workflow where it decides what to do, and it remembers its memory. It remembers the state, what it's already done, and it will adjust. It'll evaluate what it's done and adjust its approach based on previous experiences. So when I look at a agentic workflow, it has to have a clear goal. So resolve a customer issue, for instance, or create a weekly sales summary, or deploy an app and notify stakeholders. And the agent optimizes the actions to reach the goal. And it'll plan. It'll say, oh, I've got to gather information. It'll gather the required information, decide what tools to use. It'll then executes the actions in sequence. It'll validate the results. And that planning might be something it does once, or it might be dynamic. It'll decide what to do each time based as new information appears. It'll use reasoning, often like chain of thought, to decide what step it should do next, whether more information is needed, whether an earlier step has failed, and actually when to stop, and so give the result back to the user, because these things will go on and on if you let them. And it will go and interact, say, with different tools, with databases, knowledge sources, and on automation flows. It can go talk to Power Automate or run scripts or functions. It'll interact with your business systems. But when it does so, it interacts contextually, not via hard-coded steps, which you would do in, say, a Power Automate Cloudflow. So it's memory. It tracks its state. It tracks what it's done. It tracks the data collected. It tracks the decision made. It tracks the outcomes, and essentially allows it to give continuity across my task execution. And essentially, it monitors here. Yeah, so they validate here is more about has it met the goal. So has the step I've actually finished. It'll check, has this actually worked? So I do this step, and you'll see this actually if you use the researcher agent. It's very, or actually you'll see it with the analyst agent, where it goes off and runs a step and then says, well, that didn't work, I'll try something different. So yes, you'll have grounding data in here, because typically an agentic workflow or even an autonomous agent needs some knowledge to work from. But it's going to look at the goal. So it says, I need to say resolve this customer issue. If it tries to do something and that's not a resolution, that's what I mean by validate. It checks, has it validated it? And then also whether it needs to execute to escalate to a human as well. So it still needs grounding. I think when you look at agentic workflows, it's not really something you build. There's no create an agentic workflow. It's more of a combination of the agents and automations and things that we have. So traditionally, if I look at, say, Power Automate, that's traditional automation with fixed steps. So traditional automation, yeah, you define the steps it goes through. If I build a simple chatbot, they're just what we call single turn responses with a prompt and response. You ask it a question, it responds. When we get into more agentic side, typically so if I look at traditional workflow, it's very much based on you deciding when you build it. You build in the rules. It has paths through the automation with if-thens and loops and things like that. Traditional workflow is great, and I'm a big proponent of automation. I've always have been. There's an awful lot of work that can be automated with the traditional workflow. But when you actually get into businesses, a lot of things don't work nicely. You think you've got a nice simple process, and it goes through these steps, and then in reality it hits the real world and it's not. And I'll give you an example. We had this process that I helped set up the UK Ombudsman, and they built it. They brought in some business process people to design the business process. We ended up with a 37-stage investigation process. So 37 stages in the investigation. And the investigation could take 6 months. But it did. A case didn't have to go through every single stage. But they came up with this plan, and it basically went out. There's lots of branches and coming back and branches out and different bits of the process. The trouble was, when it hit reality, people don't act in the way you want. They do things out of sequence. They don't respond when you want to, or don't respond in the right way. The number of people who never were ill or couldn't respond in time. So we had this thing where you have to respond within 14 days, otherwise it's default decision. And they come back 3 weeks later and says, oh, sorry, I was away. I didn't know how to do something, or I couldn't email or whatever. People would provide all the information. So we had to, this process that we built, because I was told to build this, I built this process into the application. It became too rigid. Because it couldn't have, we ended up with lots of manual exception handling. In fact, the whole system was exceptions. What we call was the happy path, which was they said, oh, you're going to get most people going through this path. Hardly anybody went through the standard path. And that's one of the problems with traditional workflow, especially complex process where lots of people involved. It is difficult to understand what to do next. And that's where agentic workflows can come in. We can say we want to help resolve this issue, and these are the things that are needed to do. And we give it information and a goal and essentially an overview of what it needs to do. And the agentic workflow will then do this. And agentic workflow can contain multiple agents to do things, multiple autonomous agents. But the great thing is it can plan and take action and coordinate tasks across systems to effectively do the complete process end to end. So one of the things I think about agentic workflow, we're talking about business processes here rather than individual tasks. That's I think the difference between, say, what we mean by talking agentic workflow. We're talking about a workflow across a business process where we're using agents to do a lot of the work for us. So unlike traditional automation, agentic workflows can reason, adapt, make decisions that are context aware. But the key thing is they still retain operating with you in your organization's security, compliance, and policy boundaries. So when we build agents, we need to make sure we're still accessing data, we're not leaking data. And really, I'm trying to contrast them between, say, an agentic workflow versus traditional workflow versus simple chatbots or prompt and response agents. So let's take an example here. I've built an agent that can handle human resources policy questions. An agentic workflow might go to, okay, interpret what, say somebody emails in, the agent kicks off the agent workflows, agentic workflows have started. First off, it's going to interpret the question. It's going to identify the relevant policy documents, searching knowledge base. But then what it's going to do is, this is where it gets interesting, it's going to maybe cross-check conflicting policies. It's going to summarize its findings, ask follow-up questions. Now, typically, a non-agentic workflow would stop after searching the knowledge base. It would not go and cross-check the policy. So it says it goes that extra step further to validate that the response it's giving is correct or relevant. It goes and iterates. Maybe you go, oh, I need more information. So I tried to summarize agentic workflows versus autonomous agents. And the way I've seen this best described is an autonomous agent is the actor and the agentic workflow is the playbook. So again, it's very American. It's your steps of actions. So autonomous agents work independently to achieve the goals. An agentic workflow isn't necessarily autonomous. It can be a task. It can use task-based agents, prompt and response agents. But it goes beyond the simple response. You don't need full autonomy for agentic workflow. It's really just an agent that goes beyond simple prompt response or task. It questions, validates, goes round the houses a bit more to figure out what to do. And an autonomous agent, I can use autonomous agents within an agentic workflow if I want. And an autonomous agent could be used potentially in multiple agentic workflows, depending what you are. So the thing we say often, autonomous agents independently pursue its goals, whilst agentic workflows define how AI reasoning and actions are orchestrated together to get to a larger goal. But often still maybe with some human control. That's what I'm going to talk about, the human oversight in a little bit. Okay. So key characteristics of an autonomous agent. It has its own goals, decides what to do, and accesses tools. So an autonomous agent, let's just go through this again, has a goal, decides what to do, when to do it. It goes through planning, it goes through reasoning, it evaluates its steps, and it acts. Okay, and often agentic autonomous workflows are long running. So typically with an autonomous agent, it's monitoring something, maybe an inbox and an email, and then decides what to do. It can identify opportunities or problems, choose actions proactively, use tools to maybe access systems, and escalates when required. So for instance, I can have an AI agent that monitors some system health or something. I can send an autonomous agent to monitor system health on my website. Usage to detect anomalies, maybe automatically apply fixes, logging its actions. An agentic workflow in comparison is goal orientated, but longer term goals. It uses agent behaviors such as planning and reasoning without full autonomy being required. It uses dynamic decision makings, but key point is my steps are not hard coded. It can include human checkpoints and often embedded in to other systems. So within Copilot Studio agents or Power Automate. So I can have agentic workflows that can be kicked off and be part of Power Automate or can run Power Automate flows. So typically, I can have a good example. I can have a support workflow that interprets a user query. It searches a knowledge base, calls a CRM tool, drafts for confirmation, drafts a response, asks for confirmation before closing. So the workflow can be an agentic without being fully autonomous. You have bits of it that are autonomous, and I think there's something that when people say, "Oh, about agentic workflows," they're thinking about autonomous agentic workflows. No, agentic workflows are really, they can be autonomous, but they can also be prompted response, task-based, but they're going that step further as part of a longer term goal. So let's have a look at some examples. So these are some safe use cases. where it's safe to use it right now. So this is, I'm talking right now where I'm on to it. So maybe I'm doing some knowledge or information work. So I've got an agent that does policy interpretation of HR documents, as we just described. Typically safe because it's read only of data. It's we can add in human review if we want. I'm going to talk about human in the loop to give human oversight. I can maybe use it to draft knowledge work, drafting emails. So that's Microsoft 365 Copilot. Decide guided decision report. Decided decision support, not report. This is where human in the loop comes in again, where we can maybe get an agent to give us guidance or recommendations or next best action or prioritize work. And it's going to use data analysis and insights into what that and maybe compare scenarios to do its decision. And if it wants, it can go and essentially the agent suggests, the human decides. So it comes up with recommendations rather than taking action, which the human can then do or approve. We can have process orchestration, like ticket triaging. So support tickets come in, I can route them, triage them, I can enrich them with data. And maybe and the workflow here for Agentic is maybe coordination across systems. Again, I can build in human in the loop with approvals, say, or I can limit its validation. I can give it guardrails as to what to do, and I can give it, say, validation. So we'll come back to validation. What checkpoints? So only do things if this meets those criteria. Don't just go take action. Validate add some checkpoints in. So this is something we're different in an agent and an agentic workflow is the checking. Beyond just simple doing the work, you need to validate, reiterate, and do things. Repetitive, well-bounded information, like form handling, notifications, following up. It's very simple, easy to roll back if it gets it wrong, predictable behavior. Incident analysis, logging analytics, suggesting remediations, suggesting non-destructive fixes like restarting a service or clearing a cache. But we'll still possibly need some safety control in there. You may have heard of the problem that Amazon had a few weeks ago where they deployed an agentic workflow to live and it decided to rebuild the prod servers, like delete them and recreate them. That happened to Amazon a few weeks ago. You need to add some safety control, some human oversight in there. They didn't do that. Customer support, typically things like FAQ resolution, account looking ups, guided troubleshooting. But again, we need to put controls in. So have identity checks built in, have escalation paths defined. Make sure they're not going, the agent workflow is not going to go and give customers refunds, for instance, or we can fix that by tomorrow when we can't. Another good example of safe use cases is maybe getting some training, creating sandbox environments or synthetic data. I use this a lot at the moment, creating data. What if modeling? I'll do a bit of that as well, just because there's no production impact. So let's look at one of these now. This is an example safe use case. So someone mentioned Dynamics CE, customer engagements. Dynamics 365 Sales has an agent that does this. You've got a whole load of sales agents that can help build this thing. So here I can build an agent to enrich my account information. So my customer account or prospect, I can go use this. And I can have an agent that does this, and I can have it working for me to summarize, goes and looks at my data, summarizes my recent interactions, comes up with some next best action and drafting information. Now, why this is safe? Because it's just doing recommendations, not making commitments. We're not doing pricing or contracts. And essentially we can pass it up to a human. So when you do when you're looking at safe use of agentic workflow, I think they all share similar characteristics, such as clearly defined goals. This one has it, just enrich the account information and generate a follow-up. It generates limited pre-approved actions, so drafting an email. It's reversible because it's not making something that we can't undo. And we've got human override or approval as part of the workflow. Importantly, it should also be logging and monitoring it. We should have some logging of what's going on and what it's done and how it's got, and maybe what its decisions can be. So these are not really nice and safe. And these are just some examples. Where you might want to use agentic workflows, but you can use them, but they're a bit more risky. So what you're going to do is add strong governance. Here, for instance, performing financial actions such as refunds or credits, or if I'm doing hiring recommendations or provisioning access to systems, yeah, I can do it with an agentic workflow, but I will need to have extra controls. I'll need to have explicit approvals, which is where human in the loop comes in. I'll need to make sure it's following policy. So we need the agentic workflow to validate it's doing. We have full traceability because we're doing things that may not be able to be reversed. And we need to make sure our tools are running with not too much privilege, just only the privilege they need. Unlike Amazon a few weeks ago, where they let it rebuild the entire production system. What's not safe for agentic workflows are things where we could potentially have high impact or they're completely irreversible. Here's some examples here. Not safe because they have high impact. You can't reverse. There's no margin for error. There's regulatory or ethical or legal risks involved. So if you were to look at, do I want to use agents in my workflow and build agentic workflows? These are some of the recommendations or checks. Maybe a checklist is probably the better word for this. What I should do. So make sure we follow with our agentic workflows, follow our governance and compliance rules that we've got in place. We should act, but not decide if there are consequences. So agentic workflows are safest if they're bounded in terms of their scope. The actions they do are reversible. If we're using tools, we have to prove the use of those tools. So there are checkpoints in place. Everything's audited as well. And here we can override or intervene as necessary. And failure modes are known and banners. If not, you may need to redesign your workflow to be an assistant workflow rather than an agentic workflow, or just make it purely advisory if it doesn't meet these checklists. Here's that checklist, just another way. I did this little diagram. I actually built this I got Copilot to build this image. It took me about a dozen attempts, and even now it's got some spelling errors. I told it to reword it. I told it to reword goal from GAAL, and then it got something else wrong. I would not be using this. I gave up and just put it in the end. So again, do I need AI? You don't always need AI. There's a lot of things that just create a simple chat app or a simple work cloud flow to do your actions. Does it have a clearly defined goal? Yes or no? It should have gone off. No, go do something else. Are the actions limited? That should say limited and reversible. If they're not, do human oversight. Can I put safeguards in place? If not, add those controls and monitoring. This diagram went wrong. Just trying to put it here. So I'm going to move on. I've got 15 minutes left. I've talked a lot. So let's talk about tools now. And I'm going to do a very quick demo. So we can build agentic workflows using Copilot Studio agents and agent flows, or what now called, I think they've got renamed as Copilot Studio Workflows. We can also use Microsoft Foundry to build agents, agentic workflow in Azure with code. We're also going to bring in services like Microsoft Purview. Microsoft Purview is Microsoft's data governance platform. Especially when we're operating within an organization, we can use Purview to provide data loss prevention policies, information protection, sensitivity labels. There's loads of compliance, there's communication compliance. There's a whole suite of data protection and governance tools that we can bring in and use with our agents. We're also going to use things like Microsoft Enter ID protection, so to restrict access, to control access and authenticate our tools and our agents to do things. And I'm going to be using Azure Application Insights, I always do, to get really detailed logging of what I can do, and then use tools like Azure Monitor to do it. So with Copilot Studio, we can build agentic workflows. We can build agents that interpret goals, reason across steps, calls tool dynamically, and escalate to humans. We've got and it can retain conversation. So I've got lots of use cases for Copilot Studio. And really, for me, it's one of the best options for it. I'm going to look at using Copilot Studio agent flows or workflows to integrate with humans, and then do the bit, maybe do things to create bounded actions. I'd use Foundry if I want to do more fine-grained control, custom models, or maybe building more advanced evaluation and monitoring. But I'm seeing a lot of convergence between the capabilities of Copilot Studio and Foundry now. There's a whole load of stuff that's in preview in Copilot Studio around evaluations that we didn't have before, that if I wanted to have to use Foundry now, they're going into Copilot Studio. But yeah, I think Purview is one of these things that you can't ignore, because it gives, there's actually a load of reporting built in. And with the Agent 365 platform Microsoft is bringing in, we'll be able to have a single platform for monitoring agents and monitoring agent usage, monitoring boundaries, and making sure we're following and being compliant. I think compliance is one of the big challenges, which I think only Microsoft is really addressing right now. So if you're not using Copilot Studio, it allows me to build agents very, very easily. Typically build agents maybe for department, but actually I think now that's changing. You can build enterprise-wide agents with Copilot Studio. And I can build an agent that I can deploy into, say, Microsoft 365 Copilot, or to Teams, or to my web portal. I can deploy it also into things like Facebook or Slack if I want to. And what I'm going to look at now is just where we're going to use Copilot Studio, an example of doing it where I'm going to do a little approval. So what I've done is I've created a little agent this morning, and all I did is create an agent. I just went in and I just gave it a description. I built in and I'm doing an agent that's going to do claims handling for insurance claims, where we need to send out a field adjuster to do a report. So I built an agent here. It automates field adjustment when insurance claims lack required documentation, need further information. So I've given it some guidelines. I've actually added a bit more in here just to do it. But right now, I think all I've got in here is it's got a tool in for sending emails. We're using Outlook to send tools. So if I say right now, I had an accident, it's going to ask me some information. Oh, it's going to, I need to allow me to use Outlook. So I've asked it to send me an email. Why is it going to MCP yet? Also my claim ID. I've told it to go get some information. I've given it this here. So claims missing information. I now need to send it. And what it's actually doing, I need an approval. And what it's done right now, it's just sent an email to Benny. So if I actually open up Benny's email account, let's see if this actually works. Yes, I've got an approval required, but it's not a proper approval. It's just an email. Okay, and it's just sent an email, which is okay. Yes, please proceed. I'm not sure if I say yes, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm not sure it's sat there. It's going to sit there and wait and continue on. So at this point, my process is here. Has it built that in? No, it's just sent the email. It's just sitting there. Nothing's happened. So it sent me back. Yes, it's not worked. So this is an example where I've not given it information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this smarter. I'm going to make this more agentic. And what I'm going to do is go to my agent. I'm going to go and create an agent flow. So I'm going to create a new tool, create a new agent flow. And I'm just going to click in here. And what you'll see, this is different, say, Power Automate. If I type human, I'll see the human in the loop. There's two options I've got here. One is a request for information, and the other is to run a multi-stage approval. So if I do this, do a multi-stage approval, set up the approval. Great. Oh, let's do an AI. I've not tried the AI stage. I know just a manual stage. So approval type is approve reject. Similar to you've done approvals, and And I'm going to say, can I go access my data? Actually, I'm going to cancel that. I'm just going to go and add an input, which is the claim ID. I've got something there, set up the approval, approve reject title. Why is it not showing the inputs? Okay. Assign it. I'm going to assign it to myself. On here, details, add a link, whatever. I'm just going to set this up briefly just to show you. And I'm going to respond to the agent, add an output, respond back. I've got my dynamic content. What's the approval final outcome? So I can do this and go set it all up and hit save and publish. Let's publish that. And I can build, I just want to show you, this is where I'm getting into the human in the loop. This is very new thing that's just out. It's still say it's in preview. And there's two types of human in the loop we've got. I'm going to actually put the links in the chat for these two because they are very, very interesting. There's the request for information and the approval. I'll put those links in the chat. Now in my agent, I was going to go add that tool in. So I'm going to add that tool. Oh, I didn't need to do that. Flows, click here, is it called? Oh, it's untitled. Oh, I did give it a name and a configure. Going to give it a name. I'm going to call that approve RFI. Description is important. When you come to do tools in agents, the description is basically when to use it. So I'm going to say, okay, let's say use this tool provides you for the RFI for the register. Okay, hit save. Yeah, I'm going to just hit there. So now what I do, I've got my tool, and let's just try again. Hopefully you'll see what it does. I crashed my car. Hopefully we should see it. I've missed the step, so it might work, it might not. Whereas before, yeah, right. Whereas before now, I need to have a connection manager to. I haven't got the connection for the flow. So I just need to do this just to get it to work. Connect. In the loops a bit. So let's create a connection so it's working. That's working now. And if I click retry, so rather than before it sent an email, now it's kicked off this human in the loop process. It's kicked off this approval flow, and this my flow is going to run. It's initiated. Why is it still trying to retry? Why is that not working? It should be kicking off the human in the loop, and I should be getting my approval come through. Something's gone wrong. I'm not sure what. I have to go and look at my flows and figure out. But hopefully you see that I was hoping for it to kick off an approval. But I think what's happened is my flows errored. It's published. Why is it not running? Did it fail? No, it hasn't run yet. Maybe I think what I need to do is just retry the agent again. Now I've approved it. I think it's yeah. Let's try again. Let's try a different one, different number. 67890. It should now kick off the approval. And I think it is working now. The approval's kicking off, and this should then start the approval to me. But I think it's taking its time. I haven't got enough time to figure this out, but hopefully you'll see that working. and what it does. This is where we get into more agentic workflow. We're bringing human in the loop for it here. I mentioned that we have Foundry for much more complicated scenarios and building in here, but I work across both, but I'm loving the fact that I'm seeing things in Copilot Studio going into Foundry, things in Foundry going into Copilot Studio. And in terms of training, there is a brand new course, the AI 103, which is really about building agents in Foundry. And that's out at the end of it's out at the end of the month. There'll be a new course that replaces the AI 102. There's also a one-day course on building agents in Azure. That's again in Foundry. And there's a new version of the AI 900, which is going to focus more on Foundry and agents than the traditional AI tools. And we're going to see more coming from Microsoft on that. In the Copilot Studio world, there's a huge amount of change. A lot of the Power Platform certifications are retiring at the end of June. We've got a brand new course, Copilot Studio Developer. That'll be out at the end of May. And I've got that scheduled in already. I'm building the labs for that for Microsoft. And there's also AB 100, which is it's a really solution architect, which crosses Dynamics, Power Platform, and Foundry about building agents. How do I decide as a solution architect what to use? And again, that's evolving very, very rapidly. That's out now. I actually taught Agent of the Day on Tuesday, which is a one-day how do you build agents. And then there's also Create Agents in Copilot Studio, PL 7008. That's probably going to get a new number. That's a one-day course, and it's going to be updated. Right, I've actually got a meeting about that this afternoon, where we're looking at updating that to make it much more about the newer features, because it was built a year ago, so it needs a refresh. There was the feedback poll came up. This poll came in. There's also feedback came up in the chat, so please do that. I've got some resources for you in the links here, some training, another path, also some labs. I'm going to give you a link to the to my OneDrive where the slides are. Is that agent? Yeah, there's this one. So you should be able to go to that and go see more. I'm just checking I've placed that link. It actually works. Okay, it should open up the slide deck. So you've got a copy of this here, including you'll see those links in the bottom of it. Yeah, that's the one today. And just in, we're actually got 20 seconds left. So I did mean to leave some time for questions, because if you have any, you're welcome to. But hopefully what I'm trying to show you talk about different types of agent and try to help you understand the difference between an autonomous agent and agentic workflow, and where you can use agentic workflows safely now. A little bit about using Copilot. For me, Copilot is probably the best thing to use right now for building agentic workflows, because we can look into Power Automate and all those other automation tools available for you. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, please ask now. And just to let you know, we have ongoing training if you're signed up. So I think some of you probably are, unlimited training, where you sign up and you just attend any courses you want to go to. Dozens of live courses around different topics. On that. So thank you for joining us today. I've just gone over by a minute or two. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please ask. If not, I shall see you again. Bye-bye.